And we start with medication. So eating food as medicine. And these are herbs. These are herbal gardening. Yes. So we have all the herbs that you need for your food or for drinking and all that. So different types of herbs. This is for people with diabetes. If you are diabetic and you don't take sugar, it is an alternative. It's called Aztec sweet herb. It's very sweet. It has excess sugar, so if you take a leaf, it becomes a little bit bitter, but it's because of the sweetness. Yeah. The excess sweetness. Yeah. So this is recommended for people that don't take sugar. Yeah. So just take the leaves and boil, and you can put sugar. I mean, you can put milk or tea leaves, and yeah, right, and the different ones there.
Dandelion.
So here are the principles. I've outlined all the principles here so that it becomes self-explanatory. You just come here and read. So there are 8 principles. All of them are very important. And for Grow Biointensive, you have to practice all of them in your farm. If you leave one behind, then that is not Grow Biointensive. That is Biointensive agriculture. There's a difference between Grow Biointensive and Biointensive. So Grow Biointensive is what we are talking about here. We are not talking about Biointensive. If you don't practice use of open-pollenated seeds, it means that you are doing Biointensive. Yes. So in the books, if you see anything written Biointensive agriculture, know that it is not this system. It has to be Grow Biointensive, and the words Grow Biointensive must be in capital letters. Yeah. All right?
That's the trademark.
Because it's a trademark. Yeah. Okay. So principle number 1 is deep digging. Deep digging. You have to dig deep, because beneath here there is what we call a hard pan. Because farmers dig every year the same djembe. The same djembe is normally 6 inches. That djembe is 6 inches. So we dig 6 inches every year. So what forms down here is called a hard pan. So when the rain comes, the water does not penetrate, so the water runs. So that's why you have a lot of runoff in the farms. Mvua kidogo tu unasikia maji yanaenda. Na maji ikienda umebeba ile mchanga juu na hiyo mchanga juu ndio utamu wote, sio? So you have to make sure that you are digging deeper so that you break these, so that water percolates. Water will go down. Again, the roots. The roots reaches here, and then instead of going deep, they spread. And when they spread, they form networks. So that networking facilitates competition of nutrients that are up here. Yeah. So that's why you have to dig deep. And then number 2, composting. You have to use compost. And the compost that we're talking about here is compost that you build using the materials that you have produced in your farm, not materials from outside. Because materials from outside, you don't know whether they have chemicals or not, right? And then number 3, intensive planting. You plant. Now after deep digging and using compost, that qualifies you now to plant your crops close to each other, because there will be no competition. And then number 4, companion planting. Companion means you are planting crops that have some companionships. They have some kind of relationships, yeah? Maize and beans are companions. Okay. Always. Yes. Maize and beans are companions. Yes. Maize provides support and shade to the beans, and beans provides nitrogen to that maize. So they are companions. Kitungu. Yes. Kitungu and then sukuma wiki. Kitungu is onions, eh? Yes. Yeah, and sukuma wiki. So those are companions. Kitungu inafukuza wadudu. Just will scare or chase away the pests. Yes. All right. So those are companions. So we have different types of companions, but also we have antagonists. Antagonists are crops that you cannot plant together. They cannot go together. Yeah. And then carbon farming is where you're planting crops that will give you a lot of food, but you remain with a lot of trash. Like maize is a carbon crop. When you harvest maize, you remain with a lot of trash. Sorghum is another carbon crop. You remove the head, you remain with a lot of trash. And then calorie farming is crops that you grow that will give you food from beneath the soil, like sweet potatoes. We call them special root crops. Sweet potatoes like garlic, like cassava, like Irish potatoes, Yeah, those are calorie crops. And then when you eat them, they give you a lot of calories. That's why they are called calorie crops. Yeah, and then use of open-pollinated seeds. Kutumia mbegu zote za kiasili. Yes, and that's what we promote here. We don't, apart from sukuma wiki, which is a common vegetable, we promote indigenous seeds, and we have our seed bank here. We're going to see.
What's an open? I don't know what an open-pollinated seed
Open-pollinated seeds are the seeds that will grow year in, year out, season in, season out.
Versus hybrid GMO.
Yeah. Hybrids are not open-pollinated. Yeah. When you buy a hybrid, eat everything, go back to the shop.
Because that seed won't produce.
Because production will go down. Yeah. Yeah, so those are 7. And then now, this whole system is not a practice, but it says, as a principle, you have to use all the principles, these 7 principles together. That's why it's called a whole system farming system.
Summary of all that.
Summary everything.
Yes.
Yes.
On the when you're talking about carbon farming, and you're talking about having a lot of trash, the crop residue. Could you explain why that's important for a prior practice?
Yeah. They're called carbon crops or carbon farming because we want to capture carbon that is in the air. There was the climate summit that ended yesterday. Is it yesterday? It was talking about climate change. Climate change comes because of the excess carbon that is in the air. So we want to capture this carbon that's in the air and take it back to the soil because it's not supposed to stay in the air. The home for carbon is in the soil. So you got to understand which are these crops that can capture. I'm talking about crops. Crops that we can eat. Leave alone trees. Which crops can you grow so that they capture this carbon that's in the air, and then you take it back into your soil, right? Very, very important. You have to understand that maize is one of them. Sorghum is another one. Amaranthus, terere. Mchicha. That's another one. A very important carbon crop. If you plant mchicha in your farm, you are sure that you are capturing a lot of carbon that will go back into the soil, and then it helps you. It helps now. It revives your soil because carbon is a fertilizer.
And that's the feedstock for number 2, your composting process.
Yes.
Yeah. The carbon farming.
Yeah. So when you harvest maize or sorghum, you go make composts, and then now the compost goes back into the soil. We are going to see how we make it.
If you don't have enough carbonaceous crop residue, you can't produce the amount of compost you need to sustain the system.
That's why this here is very carbon farming is very important.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do a 60% of the total farm, if you don't grow carbon crops in 60% of your total farm, then you not have enough materials for making compost, and therefore your soil will deteriorate.
And you can't no longer intensively plant. And
So you have to make sure that you're going to see how we do it. We do a 60-30-10. 60 means that you're planting carbon crops, and then 30 you grow calorie crops, and then 10 is vegetables. So it's a kind of a farm planning that helps the farmer to accumulate materials that will help them to revive the soil, or call it soil fertility management practices. Yeah. So we are saying if you do this very well, you are going to reduce the usage of water up to 88%. If you do this very well. If you don't do this very well, then you are going to suffer because your soil will become even poorer. So you must make sure that you are practicing all the 8 principles. All right. We also say that you are going to use up to 100% less fertilizer. These are purchased fertilizers, up to 100%. And then you are going to use up to 19%. I mean, to reduce up to 19% of the energy, because like right now there's nothing in the farm. We are not working because there are no weeds. We are just waiting to harvest, or we have planted. We are waiting to weed next time. So you reduce a lot of your energy. But now production increases up to 8 times if it's done very well, and you build your soil up to 60 times faster than in nature. All right, and then you reduce the size of your farm. You don't need a big farm to produce your food. You need just a small farm, but use it intensively, using the resources that you have. Not importing a a lot of resources, making sure that you are using your resources, your materials, recycling everything that you have. We recycle up the ashes, even the ashes that we produce in our kitchen. Nothing goes to waste here. Yeah. So if a farmer is able to do that, then you don't need a big farm. Just a small farm and you're able to produce enough. Making sure that you are focusing on that soil. Revive it. If you have a big farm, then you can if you want to jump from inorganics to organics, you can go bit by bit. Pick a small farm, just a small section, work on it, and then next maybe in the next 3 years, pick another section, work on it very well as you progress like that. Yeah, so that transition is very, very important. Right. So that's about Biointensive. So we can proceed. You see the alternatives of soil fertility management.